one of my brothers, Roger, my youngest brother, was sitting on the other side of the bed, down by her feet. And her breathing was so shallow that I couldn't even detect it. And I looked up at her temple, and she had lost a lot of weight. She had stomach cancer. And so she was really, and I could see the pulse there. And so I was watching the pulse, and something changed. And I really can't say what it was that was changed, but one moment I was looking at my mother, and the next moment I was looking at a corpse. And it looked, visually, it was just exactly the same. And I couldn't tell what it was. And so I looked back up at her temple again, and the pulse was still going. And then it stopped. And then it started up again. And then it stopped. And after the longest time, it must have been a minute and a half, it started up again. And then it stopped. And that was it. Never started up again. And so I stood up when I went around to the other side of the bed, and my brother and I hugged. And then I went back and sat down, and my brother looked at me kind of confused, and I said, well, what do we do now? And I shrugged, and it wasn't out of indifference, but I had never watched my mother die before, and I didn't know what to do, and so I thought, I'm just going to sit here for a little bit. And then the nurse came in and picked up her hand to take the pulse, and I looked at her and I said, she's gone. And the nurse, it wasn't like she froze, but she just got very still, and just was staring straight at me, and her eyes started to fill with moisture. And she said, I'll leave you with her, and I'll go tell the doctor. And she walked out, and I thought, bless you, bless you, bless you. And I was surprised at how ordinary that moment felt, and how ordinary the death seemed. And I thought, well, perhaps I expected a Viking boat to come rowing up the hallway of the cottage, come into the room and pick her up and put her body on this and then row off to the horizon or something like that. Or if it wasn't that dramatic, at least a roll of thunder in the distance, or birth of a grandchild or something. Or a literary award for one of her plays. But this didn't seem special at all. There was nothing special about it. And then the image arose in my mind of my mother walking along this path that she'd been walking for 63 years. And it didn't start, her path didn't start any place special. And it didn't end any place special, but at some point, she came on the path and she left. A few weeks later at a memorial service, her older sister, my aunt, told me that my mom had been the valedictorian of her college class. And top student. And I had never known that. She'd just been my mom. And apparently it never occurred to her that that was important enough to mention, that she was a valedictorian. And I pictured her walking up to the podium and receiving the award. That must have been a special moment. But was it really special? I mean, it was unique, but every moment is unique. But was it something special? And I realized quietly that I'd had this fundamental misunderstanding. That I thought that life started in an extraordinary way and it ended in something really exceptional. And we may reach a place that seems special, But usually that doesn't happen. Usually it just stops. It just stops. The life force just evaporates. You know, even the Buddha didn't die in a special moment. He just was alive one moment and dead the next, just like my mom. And so I must confess that I used to think that spiritual practice would take me to someplace special, someplace that was, you know, extraordinary. I couldn't, and the meditation has certainly taken me to places that I could not imagine. But lack of imagination is nothing to brag about. So if my meditation gets more refined, it actually feels more and more ordinary, more simple, more comfortable, more home-like. You know, the buzz just fades a little bit, and I'm left smiling for no discernible reason. And I think, how did I miss this before? How did I miss this before? So what about this moment? What about this moment right here? Can we welcome it? Can we just let it be as it is? Can we welcome it and those around us? And can we just expand and spread out until we feel part of everything? Everything feels a part of us. And perhaps for you and I and for all of us here, that place is the same for all of us. There may be only one self, which is one everything. We may view it from a different angle, but essentially, we're the same.